This was a long time ago, and
Should I be
Jeff and
nervous?
I.
This is me.
Is this about Jeff?
No, I think it reflects more poorly on me, but maybe Jeff as
Oh,
well. We used to do stupid things like the Grand Traverse race that goes from Crested Butte to Aspen in the middle of the night. I don't know why we did that stuff, but it was cool, I guess. Uh, and I remember we had been training for that, and for us, training usually just meant like it wasn't like it is now where people are like, let's put on our skin suits and go hammer out some vert. We would just go out and like call it ski 3 big lines in a day, and that would be our training. And a big storm had come through Crested Butte, and it was high danger. And we were like, well, let's go out anyway. It'll just be a training mission, and we'll just stay away from avalanches and stuff. And so we start by going out the Gothic Valley, and we decide to do this big tour, go out one valley around this pass and back down the other valley. And we looked at the maps and we identified that there was some avalanche terrain, but hey, we're aspiring guides. We can outsmart this avalanche problem and we'll figure it out when we get there, even though it's high danger, right? And this was a huge, as I reflect on it, this was a huge learning point for me, at least at the time. Um, so we go out, we left, I don't know when we left, reasonably early in the day. And we encounter this, we had already gone for several hours before now we encounter this first avalanche prone slope that we have to cross. And it was fairly small and quite manageable. And we stood there and had a conversation about it. And we are like, well, what do you think? And we were both like, well, I think we'll probably trigger it, but I think it'll also be very small and it won't be a big deal. Learning point number one came quickly into play. I was like, well, I'll go first. And I trucked out there, and sure enough, I triggered this small slope, and the avalanche comes down. And it was a little ankle biter. It's like filling in around my boot top. So I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. Turn my skis downhill, and I'm kind of trotting along with it. No big deal. But the critical mistake I had is that since we were training for this race, I had different equipment than my normal backcountry setup. So I had longer ski poles, more like Nordic ski poles with large baskets on it. And I put my hands through the wrist straps, which I never do when I'm skiing in avalanche terrain. But because my mindset was in, we're training for this race that we do kind of in backcountry / Nordic fashion, I put my hands through the ski straps. Well, when the moving snow caught the larger baskets of my ski poles and I couldn't let go of them, it pulled me right down on my face. And it was super slow motion, this small avalanche that I was kind of chuckling about. And all of a sudden, I'm pulled down, fully prone, face down in the snow, pointed downhill, got completely buried. And I wasn't buried by much because I could kind of wiggle my head and Jeff could see that snow moving. And so that's how he knew where I was and came over and unburied me. My feet were still buried a couple of feet down, but I couldn't move. I was stuffed in there. Even though I was barely covered by snow, if Jeff hadn't dug me out, I surely would have suffocated in it. And but he pulls me out, digs me out, dusts me off. We're like, whew, that was funny. Okay, lesson learned. I'll take my pull straps off. Should we go back? Nah, let's keep going.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that was like the first, like that probably wasn't even a point that we had identified where we were going to have trouble with the avalanche problem. We were like, oh, let's just keep moving.
You're like, we're a third of the way through it. Let's just keep it going.
Let's keep going. What else could possibly happen? So we keep on going, and it's high danger.
So unstable. It sounded like the laser guns in Star Wars, like pew pew, like a blaster. Because that was the sound of the collapses. It was so distinct. It was like someone taking a hammer to a guy wire for a telephone pole under tension and going, bang, bang.
What?
It was wild.
All the signs were there, and we were recognizing all the signs and being like, oh, yeah, man, it's super touchy out here, right? But we're avalanche professionals. We can navigate around this, no problem. We'll outsmart the problem.
Not yet. We weren't quite. Nobody was paying me to make decisions, thank God.
You were on your way.
Yeah.
Aspiring.
So we continue on further up the valley. And then, Jeff, I can't even remember what mountain it was, but I believe in my mind it's Cinnamon. But I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
We come around the corner and we're starting to get close to the place where we're like, yeah, that's going to be the tricky point that we're going to have to navigate. Like, we're going to have to go through avalanche terrain at this point. So we're approaching that point. It's starting to feel more ominous. It's deep snow. Travel had been tricky. I already got buried, so that ate up some time. So it's like way later in the day than we expected. And we remotely trigger from very far away this massive avalanche. Like,
Like literally,
shit.
Dave, the whole mountain. We were in the valley floor, and we were about to have to cross the run out in the flats. And everywhere we went, we were getting that, and I just started jumping up and down in one place. And Steve looks at me like I'm some sort of fucking idiot. And then it remotely triggers from me jumping up and down in place from the summit all the way to the valley floor. It was so cool.
And you guys just happened to be totally out of the run out zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily for us, it was touchy enough that we were able to trigger it from really far away. And so after that thing ran, we were kind of like, okay, I think now we need to readjust and we should probably go back. And so now we got to go back, which is a good thing, because as I think about it now, Jeff, we were going to have to go through Paradise Divide and cross that slope under Baldy. Like,
no way.
No way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully we would have recognized that by the time we got
out of there.
Yeah, that was the way out.
Okay.
And that was the slope that we had been like, well, that's the one we're going to have to use our superpowers to navigate around. So we turn around and go back.
Paper maps.
Yeah.
And so you got to use a little card reader, like a credit card, but it's translucent plastic. And the lines show you approximately, they line up, the gaps between the lines on the card lines up on the topo map, the USGS topo map, and you guess at about what the slope angle is. And we're like, I think we can keep it like right around 30, 31, 32 in the steep areas. I don't know. It's hard to tell. So it's a totally antiquated system where you're like, I don't really know what we're getting into based on the map, but I think it might go.
And it's
so
like,
that's
it's
so
like
you're just trying to figure out
slope
slope angle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm getting a better picture of just how dicey this was.
I have that card reader somewhere around here. I just encountered it in one of my notebooks.
I know.
It was like, why do I still have this thing?
It's the thing that makes you go cross-eyed looking at it because you're squinting so hard to try to see the relationship. And
so
in my mind,
at this point, we finally go, okay, well, we better turn around. That was like the obvious sign from the heavens. We better get the heck out of here. So we turn around and go back, and we still have to negotiate like these tight little spots where you're in these terrain traps surrounded by avalanche terrain, and it's just continuing to puke snow. So now conditions are worse than when we came through it the first time. Our tracks are pretty much gone. And I remember, Jeff, we were back by the plug getting through there in this tight creek, and we're both just like, oh shit. And I don't know why. I think he made some statement like, well, I'm the older brother, so I guess I'll go first. we're both just like, well, surely we're going to trigger this slope and die. But we made it through. We got back to Gothic. Now it's been dark for like hours by the time we get back to the Gothic town site. And we see a light on up on the hillside in one of the cabins. And some of those cabins have phones. And we were like, we should probably go and call and tell people that we're okay. Because I forget if we were supposed to get picked up on the other side or what. Anyway, we're like, hours late. We've been moving in the dark for probably 3 hours at this point. So we go knock on this door. Can we use your phone? Call. And my buddy had gotten worried enough that he was just loading up his snowmobile to come out and start looking for us. And I don't know where the hell he was going to go to look for us anyway.
Dude,
he wouldn't have been able to get anywhere. But as I reflect on that, and this is often, I don't tell the whole entire story, but it's often a point I try to make with people, is that just because you learn more, it doesn't mean that you can outsmart the avalanche problem.